What time is it? It is Blueclock Podtalk on Mondays at 7 p.m. where we talk about business development, motivation, and our day-to-day lives. Man, this is Season 1, Episode 3. Super excited to have my permanent co-host now, Brian Lewis with Brian Lewis Vlog. Y'all welcome Brian down in the comments section. And speak of the comment section, be sure to comment down below. Tell us what topics you like to hear. Or just ask us a question. You hear like a really good podcast that we're talking on, or this Podtalk, man, chime in. We'd love to see your comments, love to see your questions. And speak of that, if you'd like to be on the show, if you're a business owner, a community leader, nonprofit organization, or anything like that, be sure to reach out to us, PM us, private message, or reach out to us by email at blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. That's blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. But, man, I tell you what, I am super excited to announce our guest for this evening. Brian, what do you think? You super excited to announce it? Man, I tell you what. So, before we get started, I just want to announce Season 1, Episode 3. This is Misconception of the Automotive Industry, Part 2. We're going to talk about several different things. And our guest for this evening, Jake Hatfield with JH Performance. Jake, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How's your week going, brother?
I'm great.
Good. Good. I tell you what, man, it's I'm going to go ahead and kill this music before we get too started, because I know, shout out to Travis Tripp, by the way, Blue Collar Man playing in the background for our theme music. Y'all welcome Jake down in the comments section. Jake, before we get started, man, I just want you to tell them a little bit about what you do. Tell them a little bit about your business, and I don't want to dive into it. Everybody that we bring into the shop, Brian, they think we're BSing them a little bit when we say we got an IT guy that does a lot of work. This is our IT guy. He does, and Jake says, "Don't say IT guy. That's what I do at work." But, just kidding. He does all our in-depth electrical work, things like that. But I don't want to steal his thunder. I want him to kind of tell you guys what he does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name's Jake. I'm an automotive electrician, run JH Performance. Do a lot of things with the LS world, with the diesel Duramax world. Anything fuel injected, anything electrical, troubleshooting, wiring harness manufacturing, programming. I'm kind of the GM guy and starting to branch out into other brands, but I'm kind of just the electrical guy. That's what everybody knows me by, so that's kind of my gig.
So when we dive in, I know there's several topics that you kind of sent over to us that you're like, man, I think I'd be a little bit interested in talking about these topics. And before we get too crazy, tell me some of the stuff that maybe your typical stuff that you see on a daily basis that I don't know, man, just what's your main questions that you see that everybody hits you with and attacks you with?
Man.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it as easy as everybody wants it to be?
Never, never. So the big thing is my car won't start. Well, is it cranking, or is it turning over at least? It don't start. And just getting through that process with the people sometimes, but I guess the big thing I see the most is people they'll bring in cars, man, and they've been at other places, because I'm a specialist more or less. I get the tail end of something that someone's tried to fix already. So I'm backtracking what they've done, what the customer done originally, what their buddy Jim Bob done. I'm doing all of that stuff. So things like, test lights been shoved in pins and terminals and spread open, and latches busted, and just random parts threw in there they got at the junkyard. You don't know what's what. You kind of got to play mind reader sometimes. You got to try to figure all that out.
So you're like, pretty much, if you're playing baseball, they put you in cleanup.
That's it. Yeah, be the cleanup guy, button-up guy, the get it done guy. Yeah,
that's right. Brian, man, you got any questions for me before we kick anything off?
So I know you're known for your GM work. So I know you say you're starting to branch out in other brands. Do you mind discussing those other brands, like what you're starting to branch out into?
So the biggest thing is going to be Ford, of course, because USA. So I just recently got into the J2534 programming, which is like the dealership level Ford tools. So things like reprogramming used modules, and I'm starting to get into a little bit of aftermarket programming, like BCM configuration for different options, headlights and stuff, and mostly Ford. Now I do a little bit of odd and end things. I have some locksmith software I help with, like immobilizers and stuff. Tristan brought me a Honda Accord the other day, and we got it all relearned and stuff. No one could do it but the dealer, and I'm still kind of learning as I go on that stuff. GM is that's my home. I know that's what I know comfortable. I know at the back of my hand. But when you do this kind of thing, you kind of got to know everything. You got to know every brand. You got to be the guy to do it all, more or less.
So what keeps you from doing most of other brands other than, you said you're trying to dive into Ford and GM a little bit, I guess?
Yeah, it's kind of baby steps into Ford, baby steps into Dodge. The biggest thing is like European models. The software and equipment is a big investment to do those, and we were talking on the first episode, or you were talking on the first episode about the the licensing, the serial data gateway, like lockouts, the subscriptions, the scan tools.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a big expense, and people don't realize that. I mean, like I spend a fortune myself on just GM. If you want to be a jack of all trades and do it all, you gotta fork money, and it's not cheap by no means.
No, and it's a yearly expense. A lot of people think that you pay a one-time deal and it's said and done, and it's not, man, not at all. It's like I don't know. Did you get notified about how Toyota and all the European models, you have to pay the security gateway to even access to scan a code?
Yeah,
now?
you do. And Dodge is the worst with that right now, or Stellantis, however you want to call them. But even like on a locksmith world, like I'm not really into locksmithing, but I have the immobilizer software, and NASTA, if they're already locking down on stuff like that, you have to have a legit locksmith business, and you got to pay a subscription to be able to get into it. And I bought a really nice Autel, and it'll pretty well do everything.
Yeah.
And shout out to the guys at Autel, real good guys. But
we're looking for sponsorships, by the way.
they just treat me right. I know a guy there, and he's a really good guy. But they're taking those functions away, and it's not really them, but it's these people that are pressuring them to take it off, and the tools can do so much. But and it can be good and it can be a bad thing, but I'm starting to see a lot of it, and they're trying to get everybody geared back to that dealer. And
yeah, so I know somebody was telling me that Ford does the security gateway stuff, but they don't charge you for it currently.
yes.
And so when we sent out our Triton D10, it kind of crapped out on us. We had some software issues that it just needs some updating.
Yeah.
But when we received it back and I turned it on, it says Ford is now. It just basically says now Ford's available inside of the software.
The package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
It's crazy. Yeah.
So all you the big three, I wish they all did that. Well, obviously Ford does right now, but Chevrolet, you know that world more than anybody, I think. So, well, I don't want to say anybody, but around here, I think locally, you're the man. You're the GM man.
Yeah, I'm really invested in it. I'm real passionate about it. That's my thing. That's where I grew up with, and that's what Dad was. He was a GM guy. That's kind of what I got into. Messing with old cars, Camaros, and that sort of thing, and just Chevy trucks. Been around them ever since I was little, and just learning them, working on them. Everybody needs something done.
Yeah. So with the Chevrolet stuff, I'm not real familiar, I guess, because it's still public access. Do they still have public access to their security gateways? They don't charge for that yet either?
They do for now, but it is coming. So pretty much everything that's I'll say global A, but we'll just say global B. It's kind of the GM security. It uses a serial data gateway module. So what that thing does is on your CAN bus networks where everything's talking to each other, that gateway module is kind of like the brain to everything to say, hey, you can talk to this and you can do this to this module if we let you, sort of thing. And that serial data gateway module is kind of like on like the Fords where they lock you out. You're having to get the access through that, so that CAN network can communicate. And so the security encryption, if you've seen it, it's wild. It went from 2 byte, 5 byte, 12 byte, and now they've got it to where like security access changes the seed and key to the module every time the key's turned on. Like let's just say everything up to 2019. You know, it's got a seed to get access to the module and a key it returns. The scan tool does to get, to talk, to get access to things.
Right.
Well, on this new stuff, it changes every time the ignition's turned on with an algorithm.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
a lot of it programs key off. Like everything, you got to have ignition power. Everything's turned off. And it's got an identifier code, and it's wild. It's really getting super
So do you think, I know
advanced.
Brian and myself, we're headed to SEMA this year in November, and we actually have a breakout class at SEMA, and it's going to talk about what the next 10 years of the automotive industry looks like.
Yeah.
It's more of I know they say it's a class, but it's more of a seminar that we're going to set through for that. Do you think that's where we're headed in the next 5 to 10 years as far as
Absolutely.
encryption and security, and you're going to be
You're going to have to invest in it.
so any upcoming auto technician, diesel technician, whatever in the automotive industry, you want to really recommend them probably to dive in powertrain electronics.
Absolutely.
Within the next coming
That's
years.
where everything is going, especially with everyone's push for EV. It's really going that route. I myself don't really agree with that,
But you made an investment in the EV, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, no.
I know everybody gives me crap for it, but I bought a Gen 2 Volt, but I love the car. It's just a little gas saver, but love it. It's a hybrid. It's got a gas engine as well, but yeah.
For the field that you work in, though, I can't really give you too much crap about it because is that kind of your test dummy here within the future, I guess, too?
Yeah.
Is that
I've already been doing some experimenting with it. You can take Cadillac firmware and put in them, and you can juice them up and stuff. But honestly, I want to learn about it. It's kind of my test car to learn about EVs and stuff. And I've already bought the high voltage like linemen's like electric co-ops use.
Yeah,
they have automotive gloves
because
for
it's some
servicing.
pretty serious stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. Now I'm not certified. This is my own stuff. I'm just some guy in his back garage doing it. Like. I'm just putting that out there. I'm learning, there's safety to be learned, but in my free time, I read up on it. I read on YouTube, or I look on YouTube and read articles about it, and it's fascinating to me. I like to see how things work, how they function, and, there's so many of these cars out there now that, especially with me being an automotive electrician, that stuff's coming my way. I need to be ahead of it.
I love that you said that, automotive electrician.
That's what I've been, kind of hard to name myself, so that's what I've been telling people, so.
That's pretty much, anything that I see that's new and upcoming, you better know powertrain electronics, man. At least the basics 101. Get powertrain electronics for dummies. At least learn
Absolutely, yeah.
voltage drops and at least how to check for signal and your 12 volt and 5 volt reference and
the 101.
The 101 stuff.
It'll get you through like your diags so much faster knowing the backbone to that stuff. And
what about so what I want to ask you too is something that I'm learning a little bit is schematics is changing just a little bit, icons and things like that. And I think they're going to change a lot more because of the EV stuff and the battery stuff and things like that. Sure. I noticed that in one of the powertrain electronic classes that me and one of our technicians got sent to.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as in how important to you do you think that even just reading the schematic is? Knowing the icons, knowing what to read, all of those things.
Very, very important, especially on airbag circuits. You don't want to pull an airbag module, roll over a sensor out, and flip it upside down to read the part number with the battery hooked up, because everything's going to explode. But there's warning signs for everything. Even on EVs, you got DC 3-phase. That's in a lot of these electric motors, and that's super dangerous stuff. But what's really cool, a lot of that stuff, they're putting more safety restrictions, like firefighters have cutaways in case the car catches on fire to hopefully not, liquidate the car, burn it down. But it is very important to know your icons, know your stuff there. I mean, that goes back to 101. I mean,
Yeah.
And another thing is, like, not everybody knows everything. I mean, this stuff that we're dealing with every day, we all learn something new every day. And
I think one thing that me and Brian actually brought up in our part one was humility and gratitude, right?
Yeah.
One, be grateful for what you already have,
Sure.
and two, be humble enough that you can learn more in the industry.
Yes.
Because it's ever revolving. I think you have if you could put the infinity sign on the automotive industry of how much is it revolving, and more engineers are coming out with different things, and the capabilities to learn more, man. As they develop
Sure.
more, there's always stuff to learn more. So, I really don't feel like you're back in your 60s and 70s, and there's nothing wrong with technicians that came from there, because
No.
I know there's some older gentlemen that may be listening in right now, and they're going to be like,
For sure.
yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I think now it's you got to humble yourself enough and be like, yeah, I'm not the best of the best no more. I'm always learning, and
I get humbled every day. There's always a new challenge, and I try to stay that way. I don't. Everybody they'll message you, and I try to be like quick to say, hey, this is the answer, because you can't really be a parts replacer. You got to take the time. You got to test. You got to your ins and outs. Be humble, and for sure need to do that. But
yeah, absolutely. I like how you mentioned that as far as parts replacing, and they want a quick answer. I think the reason why that you want to hurry up and throw something out there to them is because that you're passionate about what you do, and you just want to help them out.
absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like you get some of them people that want that right now answer, and it's like, man, I'll leave this out of I'll leave the name out of the podcast, but I had this gentleman come in, and one of the conversations that I had with him, I explained thoroughly. I broke it down step by step for him exactly what was wrong with their vehicle, and he still just wasn't having it, and just because he had something else that was in his mind that, hey, it's the best and greatest of everything, and he doesn't feel like that's the issue with that vehicle, and that's okay. If you don't believe that, that's fine. But at the same time, I want to present those facts and back up my answers with the facts of reason why that there may be a failure, or there may be whatever issue that's going on with the vehicle. So
That's like me. I like to, respectfully, have the facts right there, and you be like, hey, this is what we did. This is how we got to this point, and this is why that it's doing it. This is why we're going through this. And for me, that's always one.
Yeah, man. I remember when I gained a whole lot of respect for you, and I told Brian about this incident. You came and you looked at a vehicle for us, and we were having an issue with, I think it was a start issue. I'm pretty sure it was on a Trailblazer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you came in, you're like, dude, it needs a fuel box. I tested this, and this, and this.
The schematic was missing.
Yeah.
Part of what I needed.
Yeah, and so what the respect level went through the roof for me when you called me up the next day and was like, Travis, I missed something, and I'm so sorry. I should have caught this because it was missing the schematic part. And then you found it, and come to find out, it was a shorted out coil pack that was keeping it from starting versus that fuse panel.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where we're like, oh, man, dude, I respect this guy to be like, hey, dude, I screwed up. I know I screwed up.
Absolutely.
And it was good, dude. And the good thing about it is we didn't get to the point of installing it yet. I mean, you caught it quick.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting after is that even though that you left, man, that night, you still went outside of your own time and dove in probably into the wiring schematics yourself.
I was thinking about it the whole car ride home.
Because you were probably, and I didn't mean to double question you when you were at the shop either, when we were talking about it, but the reason why I respect you so much is because I know how much time you kind of think a little similar how I do.
Yeah.
And if you're just unsettled about something, it's going to eat you alive until you know.
Absolutely.
And so you don't matter how much time it really cost you, even if you had to spend 8 hours in schematics, you just have
Got
to
know it. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. And dude, when you call
Hungry
me back,
for it.
Yeah. And I was like, no, man, like this cat here, if he ever wants a job, like, hey, we're hiring. No. But but no, man, it's good. I really respect that a lot. And
Appreciate
Brian,
that.
man, you got anything for him? I feel like you're left in the dust back here, honest. I don't
Sorry,
want to
Brian.
mean to
No,
leave you
man.
out of the conversation.
No, I'm just vibing.
Yeah.
But no, it's very hard to find like passionate people who do care, like Jake, me, Travis. It's very hard to find those people in the automotive world anymore that care that much that they're going to think about it at night. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not somebody just coming in, just going through the motions and just working on your car or being a parts replacer. It's people, you got to find people to care for your vehicle that actually care and are passionate.
And I want people to understand too that when we're hiring for an automotive shop, me as a business owner, and I'm building a good team. The reason why I think this conversation that we're having is so important, man, is because it's not about how much you know all the time. Like that same drive and that same passion, yeah, it's what we're looking for in the automotive industry. To have that drive and humility about yourself to be like, dude, I messed up, and I know I messed up, but I'm going to do everything in my power. Or I'm unsettled about it, and until I feel really settled and really grounded about it,
Absolutely.
I'm going to go to the ends of the earth and know that that's what I want to go for. And I think, Brian and myself, we were talking about passion, being passionate about what you do in whatever industry you're working or whatever it may be. Man, I tell you, if you're not passionate about what you're doing or where you're working at or anything like that, guys, I'm telling you, like, find something like that like what we're talking about. For an example, that drive that where it's just like, dude, I want to find it no matter what. Like it's just it almost lives in you kind
Absolutely.
of thing, And so,
Yeah, like if you start getting sick at your stomach right before you go to bed or Sunday night because you dread going in, you're just not doing the right thing.
yeah. But I mean, I think as shop owners, as I think dealerships, I think anybody like that that has a whole lot of drive and passion to grow. One that's a whole different subject we can talk about, working for some kind of people that are terrible leaders and things. That's a whole business development topic that we can dive in on and discuss that. But I'll discuss more of that with my good friend that we'll have on another episode, so I don't dive too deep into it. But it's just like, one, you got to find the bosses and the supervisors and things that whoever's overseeing you as a leader that have that similar drive and passion as you. And man, it's not work at that point. I mean, it's just wonderful, dude. It's just like when you come in, you're like, I'm hungry. I want more. Let's get after it. So, but I don't know, Brian. I'm gonna let you take it over and ask a couple questions and dive into it. I know I've got some topics here, but I mean, if you got anything for Jake, I'm gonna turn the mic over to you, man. See if you got anything to ask him.
Yeah, man. So what I was wanting to ask Jake is like, name 3 things that I won't say get on your nerves, but like 3 repetitive things that is like, man, like we can handle this a different way. Like whether it's people wearing you out about the same stuff or people not respecting your time, like, and a lot of people don't realize like Jake, this isn't his full-time job. So, like, a lot of people don't even realize that, I think, whenever they're, like, wearing you out.
Yeah, they don't. I work a full-time day job. This is my side gig, and I've been doing it for 13 years now. And today's timing, you got to work 2 full-time jobs. Not that it's a necessity. I mean, it is, but, I enjoy it. It's something I like to do. And something I've always been good at or say been good at, I like to do it. But I guess 3 big things. People don't respect your time is so true. Now, like, my shop is with my house, and man, I had to put a sign up on my door, by appointment only, because so many, and it's still so many people, man. They'll show up at midnight or way up in the mornings, or and like you'll tell somebody a time and they're there an hour late. And you're trying to get your night planned because you got a few hours a night to hustle and get it done, or they're wanting to stay and talk and this and that. And I mean, that just goes back to good mannerisms and stuff like that. But respecting time is a big one for me. I see. And another thing is like people, not that you can't save money, but so many people cheap out on the wrong things. They want to buy things like blend batteries, like things. Well, your electrical problems, you want to buy a blend battery on a new model vehicle where electrical amperage, all of that is very, dependent on those batteries. And not that there's nothing wrong with blims. I mean, I think they're okay in like an old tractor or an older truck, but something with a newer ECU in it, they go haywire. They go nuts.
For the people at home, explain what a blend battery is.
What I always call a blend battery is just one that didn't pass quality certifications from the factory, and then they get sold off third party markets, and they get resold. So it might be that they're either just out of date, or it might be that they have like a blemish on the outside, but most of the time it's like a plate issue on the inside, or it wasn't holding good cold cranking amps like it's supposed to, or this and that. It's a defect, more or less.
Then a lot of people, and of course I won't name names, but a lot of people are selling these really cheap and offering a lifetime warranty with them.
Just go get another one. Yeah,
and it's like, it's good for the people selling them, but it's bad for us who's working on them and trying to sell them a good quality battery when they're like, oh, I can just go here and get another one because I got a lifetime warranty on it. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, everybody tries to save $1 when they can, but I mean, if you've got a newer model vehicle, don't do it. It's not worth it. You'll spend more headaches, more time lost, man.
So what's some of them issues that I think you started to state a few of them when you install a blend battery into a vehicle, especially these newer models. What's some things that you start seeing that goes kind of haywire with them, that goes wrong?
I had a Duramax. The cluster just ape shit. We can cut that out. It would just go crazy. The cluster would flicker. The headlights would flicker, kind of like when you throw a battery charger on a dead battery almost. And it showed good voltage, but it had hardly any amperage. And not saying that wasn't a bad one. I mean, it tested good on the load or their electronic tester. I've seen that cause problems. Just lots of different things.
So I don't mean to cut you off, because one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, and I just explained this one to Brian. The guys had to have this $300 electronic battery tester. You remember when we bought this thing?
Yeah.
But man, I'm still old school when it comes to it. I think a hard load test.
You like the carbon pile, the knob?
I like the one where you got you still have the button on it where you can hold the load over. It's got like the little cold spring inside the
smell
heater.
a little bit. Yeah, the carbon pile.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know that's what you called it, but anyway, yeah, man. And here's the reason why, dude, because that electronic battery tester, we have it, and I showed them exactly what happens. We hook it into the battery. We do a battery test with it. Well, the battery voltage is reading like 11.6. It says battery's good, but recharge.
Yep.
Dude, you take that electronic load tester off, or electronic tester. It's not even a load. I don't even want to call it that. You take, I guess it measures maybe by frequency waves or something. I don't know how it measures. I don't know. Do you know how they measure?
I haven't really dug into it much.
Okay, I figured if anybody would know, it'd be you. This is something I've been wanting to talk to you about.
I need to look into that now.
Yeah,
I'll do that when I get home tonight.
I want you to see how it works, because look, man, I take that off, right, and then I go and I take our old school load tester, the one you hold for 5 seconds or whatever. We put it on the battery. We put a load test, make sure there's nothing on it, just the battery itself, and we run a load test. Thing comes back bad.
Ain't that crazy?
Yep.
And then, like on the alternator, like the alternator charging voltage, it's like 12.2, but it's reading good, like the electronic tester, and it's like, that is not good.
Yeah, you got to be above that for sure.
Yeah, because that's what I was about to say next. Yeah, the electronic tester will tell us when we're checking the alternator. Like he said, it came back 12.6 volts, and we're like, whoa. How's it? It's not. That's no way that alternators function properly, because it should be above. You would think it should be above 13.2 to keep the battery afloat above 12 volts, right?
It does have its place. I mean, it does show like ripple, kind of like a lab scope would. So that is kind of nice.
So like starter issues, I think.
Yeah, or like diode problems in your regulator, that sort of stuff. I mean, everything has its place, but like you said, the tried and true load test. I mean, you'll know right there. I mean, because you can have voltage and not have any amperage or current, and people don't understand that. I had a TCM at the house the other day, and it's another one. It's been at 3 places. They can't figure it out. Allison, And you could go down with a multimeter, a fluke multimeter, and put on the power supply going to the solenoids on the TCM, the main solenoid feed in from the fuse box. It shows 12.4 volts. Well, I had this thing called a load cage that I got, and I hook it up. It wouldn't even light a bulb.
So you had signal.
I had voltage, but
You
no
had voltage.
current.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough, like there was a broke wire, and it was like one or two strands, touching.
Mm-hmm.
So it would show continuity, not resistance, but it would show continuity. Well, I guess that is resistance, but it would not have amperage with no voltage.
So what I want to
no
explain,
current.
I want to kind of dummy it down just a little bit for people here. So basically, imagine a wire, right, that's running from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Say we have a wire that's running from, say, a fuse panel going to a light bulb.
Yeah.
Right. And so imagine that, hey, we're checking this wire, and we're getting a signal out of the wire. That's basically what we look at voltage at. You're getting a signal.
Yes.
But what we're looking at is think of tying a rope or something like this from one end to the other, and then you're trying to pull yourself over to the next person or the next thing. That's what amperage is. It's basically how much load, how much pull,
How much you can carry through.
how much you can carry through that signal wire.
Yeah.
And so, hey, look, I'm proud of myself. That means I've been learning something since I last talked to you. So, so basically, it's saying, hey, I'm falling in a hole somewhere, or there's a break somewhere, or there even could be a issue with a bulb or in the filament or whatever of the bulb. Yeah, I'm sure there's another term for that, but yeah. What's the term for that, Jake? I don't know. Do you know?
What do you mean?
The inner parts of the bulb.
The filament?
Oh, okay, I said it right.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I'm
it.
really proud of myself,
Yeah.
man. Hey, I'm going somewhere, buddy. I'm going to places.
Yeah.
So,
That's something else I want to touch on real quick if
Yeah.
we got a minute.
yeah, go ahead.
So many people that they want to buy these LED lights, and they want to get the cheap ones on eBay, and sometimes they work. But my father-in-law, he had a truck, the license plate lights. They put LED lights in it. No tail lights. Kept blowing the fuse every single time. We're thinking, oh, mouse got in there, this and that. Kept putting a fuse in it, pop it. Pull those LED lights out, put incandescent regular bulbs in it. Fuse didn't blow. Come to find out, that they were drawing too many amps through that diode. That's what that LED is a light emitting diode. And there's different kinds, obviously, but that's what it was. And that LED was causing the fuse to blow, similar to like a short to ground. This is pulling too much against it, the circuit.
Was that on an older vehicle?
No, it was on a cat-eye truck, like a 307 GM truck.
Yeah.
So was this you said the brake light bulb?
Yeah, well, it was a license plate light bulb.
Oh, okay.
They had LEDs put in there, and it was back feeding the same circuit that powers the taillights, and it kept blowing the fuse.
So it wanted too much of a load to
It
carry.
was drawing too much current above that. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, a 10 amp fuse. It was pulling more than 10 amps through it, popping it.
So to fix that, did you have to just increase the fuse amperage, or did you all just change it back out to the stock?
We did it the right way. We put, the fuse, or we put the bulbs it should have had in it.
Okay.
Now, people do that, but another thing is so many people, we'll put a bigger fuse in it, and it'll last us a little longer. If it's blowing, there's a problem. You're drawing too many amps or current, too much current, and too much draw causes heat. Too much heat causes fire.
That's what I was going to say.
You
Then
can figure out the rest.
Then
so.
it's going to kind of either burn that fuse. It's going to start in that fuse where it's at, burn it down, or start at the bulb and burn that down. And then the next thing you know, have a license plate bulb
Burn your truck down.
Burn your truck down because it's actually pretty close to the fuel tank back there. So
Anything's possible.
Could be. It's pretty wild, pretty crazy. But yeah, man. So we were talking about humility and things like that, and man, I tell you, it's a good thing. Every time that I reach out, dude, or talk to you or something, I gotta find my humility and humble myself a little bit because it's one of those things, man, where it's like, when it comes to like powertrain electronics and the electronic world, when it comes to automotive industry, I know that you're still learning and you're diving more and more into these things, but. Man, I think it's good. It inspires me to gain more knowledge, to be like, dude, it makes me even though that I'm not in the day-to-day technician world, anymore. I am, but I'm not like how I used to be, like grinding into dirt, like all the time. But
I feel like I blew your mind whenever we were working on that Dodge. Whenever we plugged in the ABS wheel speed sensor on the other side and spun it to see if the module was responding.
yeah,
I felt like that just like was like next level for you.
well, what it happened is it made me want to dive in more into how circuits work and and basically how modules work, how they talk to one another, how it sends signal out of it. And it was such a simple thing to where I'm like, how in the world did I overlook that?
That's
You know what
my
I mean?
biggest thing because I understand a lot of the background to how everything works, and I'm always thinking the worst possible thing and the most odd possible thing, and I have to slow down and think, hey, this is something basic. It's got to be something simple, and I always start with basics. And sometimes it's hard. I mean, I'm wanting to jump into this, like pull the cover off of it and look at it, and really it's right there in front of me.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, you're probably already paranoid because usually stuff that comes to you is like very troublesome, or
Yep.
2 or 3 other people have looked at it and they can't figure
They've
it out.
been through all that 101 already.
Yeah,
usually.
so you're already thinking worst case scenario or most difficult thing ever.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, and man, I tell you, after that truck, I looked for every class possible to take to be like, I've got to dive in so I can learn more of the electronic side. Like, I know how to check voltage. I know how to check the ground. I know how to do that. But now I really need to dive in on how to read schematics, how to dive in on what amps and volts and all of those things are, and start a little more outside of the basic 101 stuff. It's like, dude, this is obviously a direction where we're headed with a lot of the EV stuff and things that you were telling me about. Yeah. And it's like, dude, if I lack knowledge in it and I'm kind of like your general automotive shop, I want to be a little more than just a general automotive shop. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I don't want to be like the general doctor that you show up to and then you have to send everything out to a specialist to have them look at stuff, right?
Exactly.
I don't want to be that guy. I want to invest in really good people to have those guys available readily at the shop, or have enough knowledge to where I can pinpoint them and feel comfortable enough to say, hey, you know what?
Feel confident in it.
Feel confident enough that this is the specialist you need versus, well, I'm just going to guess that, you have a circuit issue, so I'm just going to send you this person. Yeah. And then come to find out that's not the issue. It's probably something else stupid. And you run into that a lot, I'm sure. Do. So, and so my biggest thing is if I can even just get a quarter or even a third of the knowledge, a little over the basics of understanding wiring schematics and, load and amperage and voltage and all of those different types of things, man, and how to read lab scopes properly.
How to be careful when you're checking, not busting,
oh
remember
my
that?
Gosh,
busting latches and stuff on ECUs, and back probing, not ramming things into pins, buying the proper equipment, doing things.
So we're not going to throw a bad technician or anything under the bus or name any names, but we did have a technician at our shop that we didn't realize how bad it was until Jake came in and started diving in and finding some things that shouldn't happen just because of
carelessness.
Carelessness. Basically disconnecting connectors.
Getting aggravated and
just ripping the plug.
Stuff,
When in all reality, and when me and Jake looked at it, like we both looked at each other and was like, "Oh my gosh, can you believe this certain person done this?" And I'm just like, "Buddy, that's why he's not here anymore, and that's why I've called you to see if we need to fix whatever we need to fix." And man, it's just
you're already there for a problem. You don't want to cause more,
right? The good thing is that we were able to catch that, and that's another thing that I want to really stress to other shops. One, we're not perfect, and the people you hire probably aren't perfect either, or they're still learning, or you're sending them the classes, or whatever it may be, to gain as much knowledge as they possibly can. So if there's anything that I have learned in the past 4 years of being on my own, is we implemented pre-inspections for what the vehicle looks like when it comes in, whatever lights is on, even if they're not there for those issues, whatever lights it may be on, whatever damages they may have, anything, even tire wear, things like that. we try not to dive super in depth on it, on like oil changes, things like that. But if they come in for an in-depth kind of diagnostics, that's one of those things we include in our diagnostic fee. One, do that pre-inspection, and then two, if the guy's spending or lady or whoever is spending astronomical amount to have an engine installed or do something crazy like that, man, really go above and beyond and do a post-inspection too of, hey, let's double-check everything on this vehicle. They're spending thousands of dollars to have this issue fixed for their vehicle to get them to point A to point B, and they want to last as long as they can. And do a post-inspection, too, after you do the work. Yeah. That's where, I'll be honest with you, on a newly trained technician or apprentice or anything like that, I think talking to the colleagues in our automotive field, in our automotive industry together as a whole, with all of us sitting at this table, is do better on inspections. Look at things. Be curious of why a light's on, or be curious of why things look.
Don't just overlook it, because being honest will get you further than not. Every single time. It wins every time.
And I think I want to take up for the customer, too. So I think a lot of people don't pay attention to certain things on their car until they get it worked on. And then, so let's say they had like a scuff on their door, or just something random like that, or hey, maybe that check engine light was on, maybe they just didn't really pay attention to it. And then, you work on their car, and what's people do when they get their car back? Well, they start really looking it over.
Yep.
And then they're like, hey, that scuff wasn't there. I
Ever
don't think
since.
it was. Yes. And so and granted, there's some people that do it on purpose. They want something for free.
Yes.
Or they want you to take care of that problem even though you didn't cause it. But I genuinely believe 90% of people truly didn't know or didn't pay attention.
I agree. I just think it's our job to really go over that and explain that to the customer too. Be thorough in what we do. Kind of, look at those things. I know you can't look at everything and find everything and do everything. We're far from perfect, man. There ain't nobody that's perfect. But at the same time, we want to make sure we're giving them like this utmost good quality service when they come into our shop, and to say, hey, I know you're concerned about that. Thank you for being concerned about that. We was too when it arrived. Yeah. And so we actually look at our pre-inspection that we did on your vehicle. We actually found that while it was in here, we know it wasn't pertained to anything that it was in here for to be fixed. But if you're that concerned about it, let me help you and get an estimate built on that. That's where the stone cold killers come in to make a sale. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. And then that's what pre-inspections and post-inspections for, because then you're not BSing. You're not making up a story. You're not doing anything like that. You're like,
and they know that. They can sense it.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you presented the facts. So did I. Let's help you fix it. Like, if you're that concerned about it, let me help you. Like, because I noticed it too. But it's like what Jake was saying. Honesty goes a long way, man. Yeah. I think honesty, integrity, and one, not being too prideful to say, dude, I'm sorry, but I don't know how to fix it. There's some stuff that we've ran into to be like, dude, I don't know, or if I'm tied up for 3 days or a week and I can't look at it, and one of our technicians is looking at it, it's going to be one of those things like, guy, look, I'm sorry, I don't know, and then in certain instances we don't even charge. Yeah. We're just like, hey, look, why if we can't tell you what's wrong with it, I'm not going to charge. Yeah, I know we got 4 to 6 hours in it, but hey, look, how I gain my money is by the knowledge of learning on your vehicle. I still can't find out what's wrong with it, so I'm not going to charge you anything. And I think that goes a long way too. But
I agree.
Yeah, honesty and integrity will get you further. I think another thing we talked about in the last episode on part 1 is trying to steal work from other shops or other people or other things like that. Man, I think if you're really good and passionate about what you do, you don't have to do things. You don't have to be grimy, because
you don't have to be cutthroat.
You're already that good at what you do, And so, Brian, you got something on that? You look like, was you going to say anything on that one? I'll just catch him. He's napping on me over there a little bit now.
Jump in, Brian.
Jump in, Brian. Jump in. I don't mean to make you fall asleep, brother. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I was just trying to hide my yawn when the camera wasn't on me. But yeah, man, like I said the other day, and it's nobody that I know like super well, but like we're friends on Facebook, and I know of this guy. And he started Automotive and Light Diesel Shop, and kudos to him. He sent me a thing to like it, and I went and liked his page, and I hope he succeeds and does well. I truly do. And but yeah, I support anybody. I'm kind of like you said earlier. Anybody that tries to go out and do their own thing, man, I'm
Mad
all for them.
respect for
Yeah,
that.
I'm rooting for them.
And I think there's a lot of people like that are out on their own. I think ones that come from nothing that had to strive to just
Build it.
yes. A lot of people. One of the things that just irks my nerves, and I'll just be honest with you, is a lot of people. They see you for what you are currently, but they never seen what you had to do to get there.
How you started out.
How you started out. Dude, I was grinding 18, 19 hours a day whenever I first started building Two Brothers Garage. It was me at one point in time. That was it, dog.
I've been there working with the flu to get it done. I mean, I've been there, working out in the gravel. Everybody's been there.
Yeah, man. And so if there's anything, it's like what we were talking about, man. Even the last one, and I hate to keep kind of redirecting to that, but man, it's I think the success that other people see is that individual's trophy for all the hard work they had to go through, all the trials, tribulations, whatever it may be that they had to go through, that says, man, look, we're finally right here where we're at.
Yeah.
And man, it may even be like that medium step to where or the beginning steps it may be for them.
Sure.
Still, it feels like that. And so, why go and run them down? Why talk bad about that person because you don't like? Why not?
What are you gaining from that?
Because you don't like positivity or whatever it may be. Me, it's like, dude, I'm in your corner, brother. Like, come on, man. Like, I want you to succeed because I understand and I know where you're coming from. I know how much work you had to put in to get where you're at now and what you got to continue to put in to keep what you have.
Sure.
And so, I don't know. That goes a long way. I don't want to get too tied up on that, but we were diving into, we talked about blend batteries. We talked a little bit about voltage and amperage.
Mm-hmm.
People had misconception, misunderstanding when it came to those. And I kind of threw that word lab scopes in there a little bit. You want to talk about lab scopes a little bit?
Love lab scopes.
Okay, so explain to the listening audience what lab scopes may be, Jake.
So a lab scope is more like a fine precision measuring instrument. It shows a waveform. So that waveform, you can probe it into any circuit to check things like primary ignition before the spark happens, secondary ignition after the comes out of the coil or distributor. You can really see lots of patterns going on with that, and the patterns don't lie because they're raw, signals coming from things. So I had an LS motor one time, and I built a wiring harness for it, and this thing would not run. I mean, we went through this and that. It would start up and just almost act like anti-theft, start, kind of choke out and die like they do. And I ended up going down there and scoping it, and it had a bent reluctor wheel. So it would show like a 5-volt reference pulse to that crankshaft sensor, but that reluctor wheel wasn't consistent. And on that lab scope, you can put it up there, and you can see like an up and down, kind of like you see like when you go in the hospital and they got you plugged in, and you can see those little things going. And that scope showed me that waveform was dropping that signal. And I ended up, making a little test dummy and plugging it just into that crankshaft sensor to confirm that, eliminating the harness, and that's what it was, a bent reluctor.
Man, I'm so glad you said that term, reluctor wheel.
Yeah.
So they're actually on diesel too, on the 6.7 Power Strokes. The good thing about them is they're external on these, and the bad thing about them is they are behind the flywheel and behind the transmission and all that.
Nice.
So you got to pull the transmission and everything. So we story. This is how I found it, and this is when I used lab scopes one time too with the Triton D10.
Yeah.
And so we had just installed this lower and upper oil pan, and anybody that knows that works on 6.7 Power Stroke diesel trucks, or anybody that's kind of familiar with reluctor wheels with the magnetic ring that runs around the side of them, Well, their crank sensor is on the back of that, and what happens is that crank sensor actually picks up the signal off the reluctor wheel off the crank, but it's externally, and it's got the magnetic ring, and
it's all on the outside.
Yeah, all on the outside. And so we put this truck back together and everything. The reluctor wheel to the out looked really good because I always inspect that whenever we install it.
Yeah.
And we get everything back together. We send it down the road. We even test drove the vehicle 20 miles, 20 darn miles.
Wow.
Ran great, did good, and said, "All right, man." Called the customer. Customer come picked it up. He makes it about 15 miles on the WK Parkway. And he rings my phone and says, "Travis, man, dude, like, I don't know what's going on. This thing runs great. It's running fine. It did great. But all of a sudden, it just shut down on me. And I don't know what's wrong with it." And I was like, "Oh, crap. Maybe we messed something up, you know." And I said, "Well, let me come get it. We'll bring you back here. Leave it with us for another day or so." And so we did the same thing. And we ran a lab scope on the crank signal. So first I ran DTCs.
Yeah.
And come to find out we were losing crank signal. We didn't see any RPMs.
There's a circuit code for that, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, and I knew because when we installed the new upper oil pan gasket, basically the crank sensor runs through the inside the upper oil pan. There's like a cutaway for it.
It's a good design.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the good thing is you can at least change the crank sensor if it goes bad. You know, you take a 10-millimeter bolt, pull it out, yank the
pull it out
through the hole of the engine.
At least they did that for you.
They at least did that for us. So I'm like, maybe we got a hold of a bad crank sensor. So we went ahead, we tested the crank sensor, it tested good. And then so I'm like, there's no way. I'm just curious if maybe there's a breakage in the magnet. It's cracked, something. I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And this is how, well, secondly, at first I knew, but, I dived back into it. I'm like, guys, y'all going to hate me. Like, well, everything checks good, but we're still not getting crank signal. Something messed up or something's going on. We got to pull the transmission back out of this thing. Take the flywheel and everything back out. Well, when we did, come to find out, where the magnetic ring rides around the metal housing part of the reluctor wheel, the inner part of it was spinning, but the magnet was staying stationary. So basically when the crank was spinning, the flywheel and everything, well, it was spinning the inner parts of it, and the magnet was just riding on it in one spot, and it was just spinning, almost like the glue come apart or whatever that was on that. So needless to say, installed a new reluctor wheel on the back in behind the flywheel, put it in, double check the crank or the crank sensor to make sure there wasn't an issue. We're going to talk about aftermarket parts, how we can get them when they're screwed up.
Yep.
But we put it all back together. Thing ran, did great, and I'm just like, man, how?
Isn't that crazy?
But we couldn't see it, to the eye because everything looked great. It just the glue disconnected from the inner beams of it.
That's why having like a scope like that, you can really dial in on that beginning of that wave pattern and the descent of that wave pattern. And if it spikes or drops, then you know that you're getting a signal issue, and you can troubleshoot from there.
Yeah.
And not to talk about more reluctor wheels, but my dad's S10, he's had this thing forever. He's a 4.3 2002. I never will forget it. It's a common thing on these 4.3s is the crankshaft sensor, the reluctor hits the sensor, and they actually have to be shimmed. And it actually ate into the face of that, and it's causing a signal drop. And that's really common. The aftermarket ones come with shims. They come with 2 shims in the box to shim it out. You would never think that, but yeah, that's really common on those 4.3s.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
So, Brian, you got anything on reluctor wheels?
So I was going to ask you, so you did the before pattern, the wave pattern. Did you test it afterwards and it was a correct pattern?
No, so that's how we found it. So sorry, I didn't dive too deep into that. When I pulled lab scopes up and I was checking the signal, come to find out the signal wasn't there. And I'm like, dude, this thing was just running.
Right.
Like, there's no way. You know what I mean?
Thinking your equipment's bad.
Yeah, I'm like
this thing's messed up.
Yeah.
It's talking about aftermarket parts. And
Oh, man. So many people get frustrated because we'll tell people up front, hey, your 7.3 diesel, your 6.4, we just won't work on them. If it's engine related, if it's suspension, tires, we'll still mess with it. But if it's engine related, we don't work on it. People just go nuts, and it's because you can't find known good parts or manufacturers that produce good quality parts anymore
Timing
because
chains.
they're all obsolete.
And look, I know that my diesel friends in the world, Brian, are going to give us some crap when we say we don't work on 7.3 engine-related parts.
And
They are
they
going to
always
give me
do.
such a hard way to go when we say this because it's not, look, guys, it's not that they're difficult to work on because they're not really all that difficult to work on. I understand that. There's certain things when it comes to the wiring on the 7.3 Power Strokes, it can get a little haywire at times. I'm sure, have you dealt with some of the wiring on the Ford 7.3 older Power Stroke? I don't know if you've messed with
No
any of
one's
that
really
stuff.
brought me into those yet.
Yeah.
But
anyway, what Brian's getting after is it's getting really, 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 really hard to find good parts for those typical 7.3 trucks because one is it's in, like, I want to use for an example. We just had a 96 F250, right? Power Stroke?
Yeah.
That came in. And it was just front end parts. It took us, what was it, a week to get a pitman arm for it.
Yes.
isn't that crazy?
And so,
And if they go on strike, just like that happened a while back,
Yeah.
well, and here's the thing, man. I mean, if it's going to take me a week to get a pitman arm, that's only $90, and then you've got, or I don't know, $100 and something, whatever it was. I'm just throwing the number out there. If the customer's listening, I don't know what the exact price what it was, but I'm just saying it was less than $200. I do know that.
Yeah.
But let's say it's less than $200 for a pitman arm. We're rebuilding the front end of this truck, and it was way more of a build than just $200 because we're completely doing the front end.
Yeah.
But it's in our bay. It's held us up for that long. Do you know how much money we can turn
For sure.
for it to hold you up that long or your bay that long? Go ahead, Brian.
I think Travis is about to hear this for the first time. That pitman arm we waited for a week on, it ended up being wrong. They had me the right one the next morning.
Stop it.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
I didn't even tell you about it.
Stop it.
Travis has been gone.
You
They-
better stop it.
They
You're about to make me flip a table.
they took a long Labor Day weekend because it was his and his wife's anniversary.
Yeah.
And yeah, man.
Dang.
So Tuesday morning, yeah, it was wrong. So when he wrapped up Wednesday morning, first thing, they got the right pitman arm the next morning.
Can we also talk about parts getting discontinued on these newer model vehicles?
So
Yeah.
Ford's doing this. What is
What
it?
is
A
up
10-year
with that?
thing?
Yeah, so it's 10 years obsolete kind of thing. So this is the reason why we stopped working on, one, we don't work on any 6.4 engines, Power Stroke engines, just because they're notorious for engine failure and EGR coolers and all kinds of stuff that we just stay away from. There's no good fix for them. But the 7.3s, man, we have to slowly start walking away from them a
It's
little
crazy.
bit.
Or take a gamble on a used one that's probably going to have a likely problem.
Yeah, and look, they are million-mile motors. I give them that. They're great engines. It's one of the better ones out there. They have a whole lot of no power.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot of no power. You're not getting anywhere quick in a hurry. But you like it. You like that saying?
Love it.
But they are reliable engines. The problem with it is you just can't get parts. So I was talking to the parts specialist, and they're going to this 10-year or obsolete kind of thing, to where if it's 10 years or older, it's getting harder and harder
Crazy
to
to think
find them.
that, isn't it? 2014 discontinued.
Yeah, I think this is what's happening. I think more and more people are opting out of buying brand new cars because new cars now are so expensive.
They're throwaway cars.
I
man.
mean, yeah, even like a truck that's not going to last like an old 80s or 90s body style did. They're not going to last that long, and
Absolutely.
they want $80,000 or $90,000, and some trucks are even in the 100,000 range or more. And I think a lot of people are like, "Hold up, I'm not giving that much for a new vehicle." So I think more and more people are trying to maintain, and I think this is where mom and pop shops are starting to come alive over dealerships because people's getting away from taking everything to the dealership, and they're just taking them to local shops, local independent shops. And I think more and more people are investing into maintaining their car versus buying a newer car because nobody wants to pay the price. Well, I think,
which is smart.
Yeah, I think like manufacturers are seeing this and they're like, we're just gonna quit this. We're just gonna quit making parts for them, and quit allowing aftermarket support as well. So then you're forced to buy a new car.
And something I wanted to jump in real quick and say is
Go ahead.
my buddy Connor, his Mark IV Supra. He told me something the other day, and it just kind of blew my mind. Is the parts for that car? They're his like 93, 94. They're doing Toyota's doing a heritage program where they're doing by customer demand on discontinued part numbers or unavailable part numbers. You put that you request that, and they are actually rebuilding those part numbers as OEM again. They have all the plans. They're ramping them up with suppliers and rebuilding them. Like you can get brand new. Correct me if I'm wrong, Connor. Like taillights or headlights for those Supras now from Toyota, cheaper than aftermarket ones.
Yeah.
So hats off to Toyota for that. I mean, that's a genius plan.
Hey, Toyota will always be king in my book. I tell Travis all the time, I had one job before working for him I was truly passionate about. When I was with Toyota, I was truly passionate about their brand and product. And just a lot of care goes into Toyota. And Honda's a close second place for me. But I just feel like Toyota really has it together, and they put out a really great product when it comes to a vehicle.
Yeah, I like how you're talking about these dealership parts are cheaper than even aftermarket parts. We are running into that. But
yes.
I will go back into this 10-year kind of obsolete kind of part situation that we're running into. We just ran into it with a crankcase ventilation filter on a Ford pickup truck for 6.7 Power Stroke, and they're still making 6.7 Power Stroke. The parts haven't changed.
Nope.
But it's the crankcase ventilation filter. There was 369 of them on back order.
Wow.
After about, a week and a half, I think we placed an order for one of those crankcase ventilation filter boxes, and they come out with reroutes and things, but that's a different topic we'll discuss. The reroute of crankcase ventilation, but the reason why, the pros and cons of that, But anyway, back to it. I mean, it took us, a week and a half. That goes to show either how much of an issue it is to have them made or how much of a high demand it is that there is. And then, obviously, I mean, or is it the materials? Can we even get the materials to make the parts, even a good quality anymore? Jake, what's your thoughts on the parts, the aftermarket parts, the OE genuine kind of parts? I know you wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So one thing I'll touch on, aside from quality, is going back to discontinued parts. So with GM Global A, what that means is like vehicle architecture. On those vehicles, they're one-time right. One-time VIN can take it, and it's done. So that's killing these junkyards, and salvage yards and stuff, and it's killing the customer because they got a 2014 model Camaro paperweight now, because a C6 Corvette body control module is discontinued. There's only people like on eBay or like me that can do EEPROM work and pull that VIN and airbag and mileage data over to another used unit. And the way they're designed is if, like on a C6 Vet, it's really common water can run right down because they're up in that like passenger floorboard. I have fixed a pile of those things, and you can't get them. GM discontinued them. And like I had a 2014 Cadillac in there the other day with the headlight problems. I needed the headlight control module, discontinued. And they're global. Those are global A cars, not the Vets, but like the newer stuff. So once it takes a VIN, it can't accept another VIN. It won't work right. Like ECU, TCM, and they're putting TCMs in the transmissions. Now, thankfully, they're getting away from that again, but you still got to set up program solenoid data and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff, it takes one VIN, and that's it. Like, people don't realize that these manufacturers are doing this to us. We're losing. Just think about that, man. In 10 more years, what are you going to do? You can't get parts for your car. You can't go get used ones because the VINs can't be rewrote. The dealers can't do it.
So does it go back to where we were discussing these kind of throwaway
cars? I am a GM guy, die hard. Chevy Cruze, throwaway car.
Chevy Spark, Sonic, throwaway
All of
cars.
those.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yo.
Me and Brian just get through talking.
My
to a
neighbor
customer
parted
about
out a
that.
Cruise.
Yeah.
We never could. He got a TCM for it, front wheel drive transaxle, one of those 6T40s or whatever.
Yeah.
Never could get it going right.
Was it one of those little 4-cylinder turbos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the plastic thermostat housing junk.
That you got the what do they have, the little valve built inside the intake, and then once it sucks the valve out, it eats through the turbo and runs everything. Yeah.
Timing actuator junk that goes out all the time. And that's something else, is those DOD engines.
Yeah,
That's something we see
let's
a lot of
let's
those.
talk about
Let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get into DODs, man. Let's talk about the AFM and DOD. Come on, Jay, you're the mastermind behind that stuff, man.
So explain what DOD and
Displacement on demand, active fuel management. So that's basically on the Chevy trucks, starting in 2007, new body styles, where they kick down and run on half the engine, run on 4 cylinders, going down the road, trying to save on fuel economy. And people don't realize this. GM did this in Cadillac in the 60s or 50s or something, and it was a flop. Problems. The biggest problem I see with them is those they had this thing called a valley lifter oil manifold, and there's a filter in there, and it gets clogged up. People let their motors go without changing oil. They sludge, and it's wearing the oil is injected into the spring into that lifter, and there's a mechanism in there, and it just wears it out. They stick, they get stuck, they get gummed up, they fail, they eat cam lobes off, and really good mechanic that lives not very far from here, he keeps me busy with them, deleting them. I mean, he calls me every other day, and thankful for that, but 1,200 miles, 120,000 miles, it don't matter. It's a bad design, 100%.
I know you're talking about, man. He churns them out like crazy.
Yes, he does.
I tell you what, it'd be really cool to have him on here to talk about some things, but he'd be
a little unfiltered.
He'd be pretty dry, wouldn't he? He is a really great mechanic.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He'll tell you what he thinks.
Yeah. I think he's probably the AFM kind of DOD cam swap king around here in these parts,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and he's figured it out, dude, to where, he's churning probably, at least one a day,
I can't tell you the amount of these guys I do a week. I mean, I don't want to say full time, but like I get call after call after call about DOD AFM issues. I mean,
yeah,
and they're not just in Chevy trucks; they're in the Denali's. They're in they're in your SUVs. they even got them in Camaros. I mean,
yeah.
mainly in the Denali's though.
Brian, tell us how you feel about the Denali's.
Oh man, the trim package. Just the trim package and some letters.
I thought that was your favorite vehicle, a Denali.
I almost bought one.
They are nice.
But think, all right, I'm not even trying to rant on this Denali thing, but think about how silly it sounds, though. So, my Subaru WRX is a premium trim. So, what if I call the shop and they're like, hey, what do you got? Subaru Premium. Like, what do you mean? It's a premium, man. It's a premium. It sounds silly if you think about it like that.
I can't stand when people don't know what they have and they're like, "Oh, it's a green one." It's a green Chevy.
It's a Ford, and then literally, and I don't remember who this customer was, and I'm not saying anything bad about him, but they called the other day and they're like, "It's a Ford," and I'm like, "A Ford what, ma'am?" And she goes, "FORD." And I'm just like, okay, it's a Ford.
When I worked in auto parts, I had a guy come in wanting parts, and it was one of those Tauruses that had the 3 different 3.0s in it. And I asked her, like, which one does it have? And she says it's the 3.0. I don't remember how she worded it, but she said it dual overhead ham or something. I don't remember. She got tongue tied. But I'm like, there's 3 different engines. I need the VIN number. Like the 8th or 10th digit, whatever it was. So
yeah. And I think, I don't know, when it comes to that, it's funny we can laugh about it, but we can try our best to give the people that just are really unfamiliar of the automotive industry of their cars, we can kind of give them a little bit of knowledge in those times.
So speaking of those 3 different 3.0s, so I had a guy called me Tuesday. He's coming in tomorrow for an oil change at 10:00.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a Mercury Sable with a 3.0 in it, and he told me, he said specifically you.
He's been
in the
through it.
bin. And I'm like, yes, sir. So he just wanted, basically, he wanted to make sure we had the oil filter there.
The filter's different,
So
I guess.
yeah. So and then it's sad because there's 2 different oil filters, and you don't know till you get it off. So I went ahead and I've got both of them there for him. So we're ready for whichever one he has tomorrow. But yeah, some customers are sharp, and they're like, hey, the VIN number you're looking for is you, and it's like, all right.
So let's talk a little bit about CAN buses.
All right.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah, I know.
I like where this is going.
I like where you're going. I had a vehicle in. I'm trying to think what it was. It was several months ago, and you gave me a good tip about checking the CAN bus.
Yeah.
And that was the issue, because I really thought it was the BCM, because it was sending. I think it was a circuit issue with a BCM, and
Which one was it?
oh man, I think it was a Mercury Mountaineer maybe.
Okay.
And then they were having an issue with the this was like several months ago, man. I think
And-
it was like eight months ago or
And
something.
when he says CAN bus, we're talking about the communications that the car has with all the modules on it, the network.
Yeah. And so you maybe it was a Mercury. I think you did a little research or something for me, and you come to find out that it was behind the dash, I think.
Yeah.
And it's where all the communication lines had come in, but it was in a booger spot, dude.
Oh, the splice pack.
There it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
splice pack. Yeah.
See
So
something
let's
else.
talk about that. Yeah.
Splice packs?
Yeah.
So splice packs, they can be a lot of things. They can be for CAN bus networks. They can be for grounds. Mostly they're used for grounds or power junctions, like seat harnesses. Use a bunch of that. Front headlight harnesses, fog light harnesses, they use splice packs. So what a splice pack is, and really cool on GM serial data is so you'll have all, like, let's just say we got the airbag, we got the cluster, we got the radio, we got all these modules, and they're going to an electrical connector. All their let's just say, not power and ground for one. Let's talk about like CAN bus or serial data. All those communication wires are going into one connector, one junction, one hub. And then there is this metal piece, and there's different designs, different styles. They all got their own. But it's like a honeycomb, and it goes up in there, and it lets those all, pass to the data port, pass to the airbag module, pass to this. And the cool thing about GM in like your cat-eye trucks, I go back to those because I love those trucks. They have a splice pack right underneath the dash near the data port up to the left. You can pull that comb out, and if you're having a shorted module or no communications with a scanner, you can stick like a jumper dummy plug in there and start talking to each one individually. So that splice pack allows you to service each module. So if you have a drop in the network and you don't have to go back to caveman ethics and try to figure out what's going on, you can start using your scanner to get you in the right spot. And also, like, they're really bad, like Colorados, like your 05-ish body styles. There's a splice pack up in the front driver's side area near the fender, and it gets a lot of moisture, and it doesn't have a seal. It's for grounds. That thing gets green as a gourd. It gets full of corrosion, causes you wiper problems, relays start going and clicking because they can't pull current, and so many problems, and it's in that splice pack.
So I can't remember the specifics on the one that I had asked you kind of to walk me through on, or where it was at, but I remember having an issue with, I think it was, and I could be wrong when I say this, but I'm pretty sure it was an ABS issue, a door issue, a door lock issue, and something else. And I can't. It might have been on a Mercury Mountaineer. It might have been on something else. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong on the year, make, model, all that stuff. But I remember finding this, and you were telling me about that.
Yeah.
And it's just like what you said. It looks just like a comb that goes inside of it. And what I had found, it was the heater in the seat. Someone had installed a brand new heater that heated the seat. You know how you got the heated and cooled seats? They put the new the element in it, And I guess that element had went bad, and it sent a signal back, and it was kind of screwing up the splice pack, and it wasn't allowing the communications to talk to the ABS.
Pulling the network down.
Yeah, it was pulling
the
the
ground.
It was basically pulling the whole network down and saying you had
And then
issues.
your scanner can't talk to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was throwing, it was pulling the BCM down, it was pulling the ABS module down, it was pulling several other networks down with it. And man, I installed a new heating element in the seat.
Fixed it.
It fixed it.
Ain't
come
that
to
crazy?
life. It was crazy, dude. Yeah.
Real
So-
quick on that too,
Yep.
the bubble body GMT 900 trucks, you know, your 08 to 13s, man. The work trucks with the vinyl floor mat, every one of them that's the airbag module under the seat. For some reason, those modules, the capacitor fluid leaks out and they short together, and they will cause that same problem. It takes the whole network down. It's full of corrosion. I think I sent you a Snapchat one time, just a bunch of looking like cottage cheese and all that, but it just takes your whole network down, and then you gotta start looking for those things and pulling those splice packs out. You can eliminate that. So
Yeah. No, that's a good place. So let's talk about, because this is where all your communications kind of feed into those splice packs. So
Yep.
let's talk about the CAN.
the CAN network. Oh
the
yeah, I got
CAN
a little
network.
sidetrack
Yeah,
there.
so let's walk into that.
So there's all kinds of different CAN networks. You got low speed, you got high speed, you've got chassis dependent. You've got on newer cars, you've got CAN FD, which is flexible data rate. So like traditionally, a CAN bus signals 5 volts on most things. You have a resisted resistor, like in, let's just say, your whole network of modules are in line. Your ECU, your engine computer is at the front of the bus. Think of it as a bus, and your terminating resistor in the back is at the end. So you have two 120 ohm resistors on all CAN networks. I don't care if it's construction. I don't care if it's automotive. All CAN networks work the same on a normal CAN network. Most of the time, that resistor is in the ECU because it terminates the front part of the bus. And most of the time in the back, it's either in like a fuel pump control module or a frame-mounted resistor in the back. Talking GM here. No, don't hate me on other brands. But so what it does is it pulls, that network is looped together on each module. And that network gets pulled down to 60 ohms across the whole thing because you're stacking two 120s. It's kind of confusing. So that lets the scan tool send a positive, like a mini voltage pulse, and then a ground pulse, like a negative. So it's always constantly sending, like send and receive, kind of like alternating current does on a house, in a sense. So on those CAN buses, on these newer cars, which Ford, Dodge, you know, even European, exotic, everything, are going to this new thing called CAN FD, flexible data rate, where they change frequency. And that serial data gateway control module we were talking about on that security, there's so much network traffic going on to each module that's allowing, like, it's the intersection officer, you know, it's saying, hey, you can go here, you can do this. And and there's so many different types of like different speeds, different voltages, different things, but traditionally they're 5 volts, and it just lets everything talk, and they can talk with 16 modules at the same exact time and not lag. You know, it's really amazing, the concept. I mean, construction uses it. I mean, anything uses it. Even road signs, like your traffic lights, your stoplights, are CAN bus.
Really?
A lot of people don't know that, but yeah.
Wow. So pretty much, do you know any kind of statistics? I don't know if you do or not. Like how much the world communicates probably just on the CAN bus signals. I mean, I bet it's probably 90% of everything that we use.
A lot of stuff does, and the newer it gets, the more complex it gets.
So is it really similar to like your fiber and things?
Yeah, in a sense.
Yeah.
A lot of it's going, believe it or not, a lot of it is going in coax. You wouldn't think that, but
Really?
like camera circuits on newer cars, it can transmit data faster with coax than it can a traditional wire.
Versus like fiber optic or anything like that?
Versus fiber, it's a coax cable.
That is crazy, man.
I had a 2019 Colorado with camera issues in there. It was a coax cable rubbed together where it was wrecked, you know. I mean, it's got an inner jacket and the outer jacket, just like the old TVs used to have.
Right.
And it's not the same thing as TV coax. It's newer design, you know. It's coax, but they actually sell a breakout kit where you can test that and then run signals through a multimeter power probe, whatever.
So it's just, is it like built like the older school ones with a single wire in the center? Is that
Yeah,
all it is?
they just plug in instead of thread on, kind of. They're the snap plug. But yeah, same design. There's one like, sticking in the middle, and then there's the ring. Yeah, it's coax. All the high-def cameras on cars are coax.
Wow.
You have to have special terminating stuff to test that.
Ah.
A lot of people don't know. It's new stuff. I mean,
See, I haven't ran into that yet.
2019 up stuff, mostly, yeah.
Well, I guess we're starting to run in some of the 2017,
Yeah.
2018,
And-
a lot more common
Yeah.
stuff.
And
That's
another thing,
5-year mark, yeah.
yeah, another thing they also use is USB, like USB-C, D, because they can transfer data sometimes faster, too. All your, like, infotainment, your comfort stuff, your radio junk, all that's USB on a lot of cars.
Now, that's been out for a while now, though,
Yeah.
right? So that's what, maybe mid-teens?
Somewhere around in there, I don't know the exact date.
Yeah.
I know it's got problems like people spilling Cokes in consoles, or my favorite thing is I had a woman bring me a Yukon Denali, and her kid stuck quarters in the CD player.
No pun intended, Brian, but a little.
Nah, just picking at you.
Yeah.
Nah, just picking at you. But she stuck quarters in the CD player, and her kid stuck quarters in the USB receptacle where you charge your phone, and it just nuked the wires coming out of that thing. I mean, melted it. And you could pick the CD player up, and I mean, it sounded like jingle bells.
Well, before we left, we were talking about soldering versus crimping, and I want to dive in a little bit with Jake on that, man. So you said you're probably going to get some crap. It's kind of red versus blue here, but
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's hear your thoughts on it.
So, like I said, it's red versus blue. There's so many people. Soldering's better, crimping's better, and they both have their place in my book. Okay. So soldering, I think, in my personal opinion, is a good thing if you do it properly. There's different types of splices. A lot of people will just lay the two wires together and they'll solder them. And they'll just use a regular plain old heat shrink, and I think that's the worst mistake you can ever do. There's different styles of wraps to where you want your wire splice to be to where when you pull on it, even without solder, it's going to stay still. So like, they call it a Western something or another splice where you kind of cross them in the middle and fold them together where they kind of hook together like a Chinese finger trap. And to me, that's my favorite kind of splice. Like airbag circuits are different, but if you solder anything, I like to use a good 3-to-1 heat shrink with glue in it. So when you solder something, you make one place stationary in the harness that you're using, but you make like a weak point on the outside of the solder where it's not soldered. Because for one, that's got hot and cold, and for two, if it's a small enough gauge, there's no flex, And with the glue, it kind of holds it all stationary to where it'll never have a problem on those joints. Most of the time, I mean, you're not really getting in there and bending them, I mean, obviously, but I like to solder. I have a Hawco soldering station. I mean, I do soldering every single day. I love to solder. But by the book, they say crimping's better. A lot of people, when I say they, I mean like certain manufacturers. I'm not talking repairs. I'm talking production, building wiring harnesses and stuff like that, because there's no stationary points for failure to occur. Like doing a splice, they sell open barrel kind that crimp together, and then you heat shrink that. But I just like the soldering because most of the time people who crimp things together, like wire terminals, splices, that sort of thing, they don't have production tools. They're using repair crimpers. And repair crimpers don't put the right amount of crimp height adjustment, or crimp height, on a terminal. So, like, say, you're repairing an ECU pin, for instance. Well, you put it in your hand and you crimp that thing down. If you put it under a microscope, that thing is not completely smashed down, so you get like voided areas where that copper's touching, and it can cause failure because you're using a hand crimper. It's not actually like you could, hold it against a brick and hold it right there, and it's going to pull it right out. Whereas a factory press, like with a 3-ton press crimping machine, you could hang it by that brick, and it's not going to pull that copper out of that crimp. And so I like to solder things that I don't like. If I'm repairing something like a specialty terminal or something, I like to put a dab of solder, burn it in good around that if I can. That way I know that wire is truly bonded to that terminal. But like I said, that I might get some flames for that. Everybody says different things. I like to crimp when I can if I have production tools, but
Hey, man, if you think about the redneck way, think of J.B. Wells. You
Yeah.
know, either are you going to smear it over the crack, or are you going to go
Yeah.
ahead and go cut the crack open and rub J.B. Weld inside the crack? So.
and another thing I say, crimping, crimping, you can spend $7,000 on a crimping machine, or you can get the old Walmart specials that smash them together, red and blue butt splices.
Yeah.
But the main thing about making a splice, I think, is to keep it sealed off from the weather. So many people just use those ones without heat shrink, and they'll get you out of the weather, get you home, but over time they're going to build up corrosion. They're going to turn green,
That reminds me, something that really kind of grinds my gears a little bit in the automotive industry too is, if you have a really good master kind of PID kit or pin kit or however you want to call it,
Yeah.
I don't know what the proper terminology is for that. I think it's PID kit, right?
Like a pin,
Pin kit or
for-
pin testing
for
or-
terminals
yeah,
and
for
stuff?
terminal.
Yeah,
terminal.
a pin test kit. Mhm.
So if you got a pin test kit, right, you have a full master version of one, and this is the point that I'm going after is, the screw-in type kind of
Where they
probes
Poke, yeah.
where they poke in. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But the biggest thing is a lot of people will just take something and just poke it the
Yeah.
crap out of it. Next thing you know, you got corrosion in between the wire and the outer loom part of it. And
I'll tell you a quick redneck
Yeah.
thing I learned from somebody, not even like anybody that messes with it. He taught me this. Anytime sometimes you have to back probe a circuit live, so you have to go into that jacket, clear nail polish, like ladies' nail polish. Hit that where you probed it, waterproofs it, and it won't corrode.
Really?
Hey,
So
it's-
I actually keep some in my toolbox, so people might think I'm weird for that, but
Hey, some backwoods redneck from the IT
I
guy
swear it works.
himself.
It works.
Some clear nail polish.
You back
So-
probe a circuit, just
Yeah.
dab a nail polish.
So we're talking about crimping versus soldering. Well, what about just tying that bad boy together with some black electrical tape?
Well, that's the only way to go right there. Send it on down the road. No.
So how often do you see that? Though?
Every day. Wire
Really?
nuts. People just twisting things
like
up.
house wiring nuts.
Yes.
No
Don't.
way.
Not
Are
on
you
Or-
serious?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Like blower motor resistors on GM trucks. No one's going to sit there and crimp each end. They're going to go get them a bag of wire nuts and put them in.
No.
Don't ever do that. Ever.
Oh man.
I fix them all the time. See it all the time.
So that's your number one favorite thing to do then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That and those.
blower motor resistors.
Yeah, those stupid quick splice things where you smash them down and they got like a fork made into them.
They have like the line in it, and you like lay the wire
Yes.
in, and you fold it over it and clamp it down.
Throw those in the garbage.
Oh yeah.
They have no place for anything at all. They will never hold up.
So one of those versus tying it together and putting black electrical tape over it. Which one's better out of those two?
If I had a gun to my head, I'd probably have to tie it up. But then when they aren't looking, I'm gonna solder it.
Yes.
I don't think I ever had one of those to work. The little cone pieces, is that what you're talking about?
I've never.
You know, people who build trailers, like you get like utility trailers and stuff, they use that for their trailer harnesses, and they'll last like a month. So many people run into that. I've fixed a few trailer harness problems, and they've got that under the loom, those quick splices to join things.
Really?
Such a junky design, and those like remote start kits where they tie into your starting circuits.
Yeah. They'll go and clip into your existing wire and just connect it together like that, versus wiring it in properly.
Your knee hits the bottom of the knee bolster and moves that a little bit, and it ain't contacting, or it I mean, it's an engine. Like a house wiring, it's not moving really, but a car is constantly. Think about it, like how much shock it sees every time it moves.
Every bump, pothole, every turn,
Idling,
every parking
yeah.
lot, yeah.
When I had a conversation with an individual one time, it was a customer, and I said, just think it's a rolling earthquake going down the road.
It is.
Granted, yeah, you can get some better riding stability in some of those other vehicles out there, but at the same time, I mean, you're bouncing. I mean, think of the roadways too, guys. I mean, with all the potholes and stuff in it.
Chicago.
Yeah. I don't know if we're seeing too many people coming from Chicago though.
Well, hey, I went up there a couple weeks ago with my buddy Tristan. I actually bought a Snap-on toolbox, and
Really?
yeah, I found a good deal on Marketplace and went up there. And then those roads, oh my gosh, I got
Rough.
like I just put new shocks on my truck too, you know. And you're getting every 4 minutes you're getting tolls up there, and you're like,
man. And
rough roads.
I'm sure Tristan was a shout or was a blast to go with.
oh yeah, he's a good time.
Yeah.
So, man, is there anything else that you all want to dive into and talk about tonight? Brian, you got anything for Jake?
So the last topic we had written down, and we'll close with this. Snap-on versus Icon,
Oh,
and
boy.
then let's just talk about how the tool industry has truly changed over the last 15 years. Because we was talking earlier, when I first got into wrenching 15, 16 years ago, you either got on the tool truck and bought a nice box, or you went to Sears and bought a junky Craftsman box. And no offense to anybody that's got the older Craftsman boxes, but you know, the bearings and drawers,
They don't hold up.
They don't hold up for professional use. So whenever I first got in it, everything was limited, and even the tools you would buy for Sears. I remember when I would drive over there on my lunch break, I'd have to pull my uniform off because Sears would not warranty tools if you were a professional. You know, it was for at-home use only on the lifetime warranty.
Crazy.
So I kind of want to get into the Snap-on versus Icon stuff and just how far the tool industry has truly come to where guys getting in the field now, they truly have cheaper options than just getting themselves into a crazy amount of debt on the tool truck.
And another thing, before we dive into it, Jake, on the Snap-on versus Icon thing, have you tried the nylon nut test with the wrenches?
But I've watched every single video there is.
You
on
have
it.
seen that go around?
I've seen it, every one of them.
So I don't know how true it is. You know, there's a huge controversy going out saying you got to hold the wrenches a certain way and all this other stuff. But before we dive into that, yeah, I mean, let's talk. What's your thoughts on Snap-on versus Icon?
I love Snap-on tools. I mean, I've got half my toolbox is Snap-on. Now, I do not have anything against Matco. I don't have anything against Harbor Freight. My dad is probably Harbor Freight's biggest customer. I mean, he has everything they have. He's got, I mean, woodworking stuff they got. I mean, he loves it. And I have some of it too. You know, there's nothing wrong with tools that you use to do your job. You don't have to impress anybody.
Right.
So many people think that they got to go out there when they start out as a tech and buy $30,000 worth of tools, and that's just not true. You know, I've been in this game 13 years on just my personal side business, and I'm just now getting to the point to where I can get a Snap-on toolbox and a used one.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, that's like me showing that I've worked for this, and I'm proud of this, and I'm showing this. But like, I've got a 3/8 drive flex head Harbor Freight Pittsburgh ratchet, and it's an Icon, and I love it. It's my favorite one. I've got 3 or 4 Snap-ons. I love my Icon ratchet. I love it. You know, Icon makes good stuff. The thing about Snap-on is, you know, Snap-on, I have never had a problem. Everybody says different things. I have never had a problem with getting something Snap-on taken care of.
No.
I had you know, on the flex head ratchets, on the Harbor Freight ones, they got that torque screw.
Yeah.
And I'll take it out, put Loctite in it, take it out, you know. It broke. It sheared on one I was working on, an L5P. I took it to Harbor Freight, and they said, I said, well, can you just order me one in, you know, get me another ratchet, you know, or whatever we can do here. Can I take one off of another one? They didn't have one, and they couldn't order me one, and they told me to just check back in 2 weeks. And I went back in 2 weeks, and someone had already bought it because they just put it on the shelf. Well, my Snap-on guy, I can tell him, hey, I broke my tool, and he either has it on the truck or he can order it in for me, you know, and I don't have to worry about it anymore.
You get convenience with the Snap-on
sure.
guy when you order the tools. Yes, it's a lot more expensive. I think the quality is there too. It is.
It is.
On certain
things.
Now, I will. You know, if you talk about their batteries and impacts and things like that, I don't know. That's a different. I'm not a big fan. You know, I'll just be honest with you. But the hand tools, I think the quality is still there.
Yeah, their pliers, their screwdrivers,
Flank drive sockets.
Yeah,
and their ratchets. Now, I will tell you, the king of wrenches is not Snap-on and it's not Icon. The true king of the wrench, the original, only true flank drive is Mac Tools. Mac has the best wrenches.
I've never used one.
They have the only true flank drive. So Snap-on actually got in trouble with Mac when they come out with the flank drive. So Mac has 2 notches inside their wrench. If you'll notice, Snap-on and everybody else only has 1. Well, Mac's got the patent on it, so they have the only true flank drive out, and their wrenches are
like
superior.
Like the Flank Drive Plus, where it bites on the sides
Yes.
instead of the corners.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've ever have you ever used a Mac tool wrench? I don't think I have.
I've used a Mac wrench, but I don't think it was their special bite style or whatever.
Yeah,
yeah.
so their
There's a
Mac's
plain.
flank wrench, it's superior compared to anything else.
I might have to look into it.
I hear
'cause-
Cornwell makes good wrenches.
yeah, but it's hard, man. There's not. I don't know. Did Cornwell go under, or
No,
they,
there's just
or
no
they
trucks
just not in our
around.
area?
Yeah.
So when I was in Bardstown, which is an hour from Litchfield, we had a Cornwell dealer. But they're so hit or miss, and so are Mac dealers, man. You know, when I was in Owensboro for 13 years, I mean, Mac guys would come and go. So you kind of held off on buying from them. Now, their wrenches, man, I'm not lying, the best in the game. So everybody's talking about the controversial nylon nut test where the Snap-on, I want them to do it with Icon and Snap-on against the Mac wrench. And granted, I'm not a Mac fanboy at all. I know it sounds like it just by talking. I'm not a huge fan of Mac, but their wrenches, they are the best wrenches in the game.
I'll have to try them out.
I think Mac in general just can. I don't know. I just never had a real good customer experience with Mac, and I think it really hurts them a little bit. You know?
I think what hurt Mac a lot is around our area, especially. There's just hit or miss service. But I think what really killed it for me personally, and I don't know why, whenever they bought out DeWalt from Walmart, so now every Mac tool looks just like a DeWalt tool, and to me, I associate DeWalt with Walmart, even though they're not at Walmart anymore. It just seems like the quality has just dropped since they have took over DeWalt, and like they've kind of become one thing.
What you do know, too, Brian, that you can take a Mac tool battery and a DeWalt battery, and they'll interchange with each other.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I associate Mac with DeWalt because I mean that's what it is. But I don't. It's not that I associate Mac with DeWalt. I associate it with cheap Walmart tools now.
Yeah.
Even though they're not offered at Walmart anymore. And not that there's anything wrong with Walmart tools. You know, there's some good hyper tough stuff and some Hart stuff. Not anything battery, but you know, just strictly hand tools from Hyper Tough and Hart that are really good from Walmart that I've got in my box at home.
I like them too because you know you're broke down somewhere and 24 hours you can walk in and get a socket set.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Convenient.
Yeah. Get an Uber to Walmart. Let's fix the alternator.
So when I started wrenching back in 2009, I got on the Mac tool truck, and you can buy these on Amazon now, but they're ATD socket sets. And I bought a 3/8 drive set and a 1/4 drive set, and they come in a little black case. Well, I cut the top off and just got it sitting in my top drawer of my box. Well, it's metric and standard, deep and shallow well sockets, and it goes from like a 3 all the way up to like a 19, and then whatever the equivalent is of the standard. I've never really used much standard stuff, but it's there if I need it. But I always told myself, each time I lose or break one of these, I'm going to replace it with a Snap-on. Well, it never happened. And I mean, these socket sets were like $50 a piece. I've impacted them, and I've just did the worst stuff to them over the years. And dude, I've never broke or lost one.
Talking about cheap ones, I've had good luck with Husky.
Yeah.
The Home Depot stuff.
Hey, I'm going to talk about cheap too for a minute. So, do you all remember any of the kind of early on Cobalt tools when Lowe's first came out with them? And I'm
Yes.
talking about the very early on.
Back when they
on-
were still USA made.
Yes.
Yes.
I
They were-
still have a
Underrated.
3/8 drive socket set. I think it's only like a 20-something piece set. Dude, I've never, ever had to replace a socket or a ratchet in that set ever. And I mean, I used it every day on some tough stuff on vehicles.
Now, unfortunately, you cannot go to Lowe's and get the same thing that Travis is
Yeah.
talking about.
You cannot. No, you
Hey,
cannot.
I've got
Yeah.
a Cobalt set in the house. Keep by the lawnmower if you ever need to work on something.
Yeah.
They're nice.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the stuff earlier. I don't know what happened to the quality and things of Cobalt or what went
Well,
wrong. but
they moved out of USA and moved to Taiwan or wherever
Yeah.
tool manufacturers are
Like
moving to.
Craftsman's worst mistake right there.
Yeah, Craftsman's downfall, man.
Stanley Black & Decker has them now, and they're starting to come back with some USA stuff, but
It just ain't the same, and
It ain't.
and it never will be the same. And I think the same thing about Mac and DeWalt. Once you made the Mac tools look like DeWalt stuff, to me, everybody associates it with, hey, that's stuff you got at Walmart. You got the DeWalt and the Stanley stuff. Excuse me, I keep saying DeWalt, Stanley.
So it sounds kind of like it's not only just automotive parts, but I mean automotive tools. I mean just things in general. Is the quality of manufacturing in itself is going down.
no one really takes pride in what they build anymore.
All companies, and I think it's just because the cost of living and everything's so high, and I think even companies are struggling, so they're just trying to produce something or put into production, and
Quantity
they're
instead of
moving
quality.
it. Yeah, they're moving it to the cheapest way possible, but they're still wanting to charge that premium price tag.
Yeah, and it's a good thing for us to walk into. Me and you, Brian, we have an upcoming episode. We're going to be talking with an HVAC owner, and we're going to be talking about. He said the topic that he would love to talk about is quality control. So, I love, man, to hear kind of his thoughts. He's been in the HVAC world, I think, Jake, probably for like maybe 10 plus years now. And he says just within the last 3 years, I was kind of talking to him on the phone that he's seen the quality of parts diminish of the quality control. He said he said the metal, some of the metal that they make some of this stuff with is just like
Hot metal almost.
that's what I was going to say, pot metal, the real thin stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can touch it and it breaks, and he's going to talk a little bit about AC coils and how they kind of went downhill where they used to be and just all kinds of crazy stuff. So, man, I think it's everything in general. The way vehicles are made now, we just talked about that. The throwaway cars is what they are.
Sure.
You're buying $100,000, well, anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 throwaway cars. You're getting cheap tools to work on them with. The quality. Look, I love Snap-on, and I'm like you, Jake. I mean, and I can't say anything. Back in the day, I bought a Mac box, and that's what I rock in. Man, it's been 15 years, dude, since. Or maybe 12 years, somewhere around that era since I bought that box. I haven't bought another box because, one, it ain't about the size of the toolbox or the way that it looks. It's about what's inside of it. And so me and Brian talked about that, about the shop, having a bigger shop, all that stuff. But, it's the quality of stuff that you have inside of it. But anyway, I really feel like even Snap-on qualities went down a little bit compared to what they used to be on certain things.
On
Not-
certain things,
yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that Snap-on doesn't build everything that they have. They own several companies. If you look at their website, like some of their crescent wrenches are made in Spain. You wouldn't know that, but it's
Baco makes
That's
a
the
lot.
Baco, yep.
Baco makes a lot of Snap-on stuff. So that's where I go back to. There are so many more places that tech's getting in the game. If they do enough research, they can take that Snap-on part number and they can be like, is this set of whatever really worth $600, or can I cross-reference this to a Baco number and get off Amazon for a third of the price or even a quarter of the price?
Caterpillar. Did you know all their tools are Snap-on tools?
Yes.
Did you guys know that?
Yes,
I did
So
know that,
CAT,
no.
it's the CAT, or it'll be like all out, like the
By Cat Service Tools.
like the
Sockets,
backhoes
wrenches.
and track hose and stuff.
Really?
All made by Snap-on, and they're way cheaper.
Half the price.
Did not know that.
Yes,
I'll have to do a little
it's all.
You don't
it's
get
all
Snap-on warranty with them, but
No, but it's all manufactured by Baco, correct?
by Snap-on on their hand tools.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Sna- and-
I'm gonna be like you. It's gonna be a late night
Yeah, you
kind
have to
of
read on it.
research. Yeah.
Somebody was putting that on Facebook, and they sold out of a Cat tool set that they had, just wrenches. But certain things are good, like specialty tools. Snap-on has it in the bag. They kind of led the cavalry with their scanners to begin with, and another thing is like the thing about Snap-on is they use U.S. steel when they can on their own hand tools.
Yes.
And there is a difference in those alloys in that metal. It's stronger, it's tougher. like the toolbox. I know it's something you're opening and closing 50 times every single day. Whereas like a normal homeowner, he might open it every once in a while. Something you're opening, closing, opening, closing. You want it to be built heavy duty, be made to last, you know. And I mean, like I said, I love Snap-on. I mean, I've got Snap-on signs, I've got Snap-on socks, you know. But I'm not a total Snap-on fanboy. You know, I like some Harbor Freight stuff. I like everything. You know, I'm not impartial. I'm not like one of those guys that says, "Hey, you got to buy this or you ain't nothing." You know.
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest with you. You know, and granted, nowadays is the tools are a lot more expensive than what they was when we were buying them when we first got started
they
in
are.
the industry. But look, if I was a new cat coming into this industry and I was learning stuff, I don't know why people give them so much crap for it. There's nothing wrong with going to Harbor Freight and loading up on a bunch of Harbor Freight
they're
tools
getting
and
better.
beginning with that.
Like their toolboxes they're actually pretty legit now. I mean,
The U.S. General boxes are actually looking pretty fire, man, and
they're paying attention.
They're paying attention. They really are. But you know, and I'm not saying go out and buy the cheapest of the cheap of the green handle type stock, you know, Pittsburgh tools. But I mean, I think if you get Pittsburgh Professional and up, you know, Pittsburgh Professional to Icon, to whatever else that's within that area. Now, I wouldn't go in and buy the cheap of the cheap, you know, Harbor Freight stuff, but mid grade to the higher grade stuff is great.
What is it? Quinn? Quinn's
Yeah,
another
Quinn.
good
That's
brand
the name.
At Harbor Freight.
So what is it? Pittsburgh Professional, Quinn, and then Icon? Is that how that is, or is it Icon and Quinn kind of neck and neck right now for that?
I think Icon's the top of the line thing. I think
Yeah, I
there's
think so too,
Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Pro, Quinn, then Icon.
Yeah.
Bowers in there. Well, that's their power tool line, I think.
Yeah, there's Power and Hercules. And
I love my Milwaukee Impacts. I'll never go back to anything else.
Milwaukee is definitely the king of the battery world.
Did you know Ryobi and them? They own Ryobi.
Really?
Yeah, they're the same company.
Maybe that's why I like the Ryobi One Plus stuff so much.
Yep.
You know?
So many people don't know that, but yeah.
I
There
had
was a meme where a guy working at Home Depot was putting together a display with it said Ryobi, but he had his Milwaukee Impact or vice versa. And they were like, it's the same company. Just different specs, you know.
Well, maybe that is why I like it so much, because I have one of the first generations of the Ryobi One Plus drills that came out.
Yeah.
Man, I've had that thing for like
I do
6
too.
years. And
I've dropped it off the top of a garage.
So all my battery stuff is either Milwaukee or Ryobi.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And we're all probably going to get crap for talking about how good Ryobi is, you know. Because didn't they start out in like home improvement or home?
Probably.
Yeah.
I've had Snap-on.
Home
I've had
Depot.
Mac,
Home
I've had-
improvement.
I sold my Snap-on Impacts. I had them.
I had it all. DeWalt. I've had what's the orange brand from Home Depot?
Oh yeah, dang.
They do like a lifetime warranty on their stuff, but I even tried them out.
Rigid.
Yeah, Rigid. Yeah, Rigid. I've had Rigid stuff. I've truly tried everything. Makita. Makita was solid.
Their old stuff was really good.
Not enough
industrial stuff.
Yeah, not enough stuff that could fulfill all your needs if you're just trying to do a one battery system. So I sold everything and got Milwaukee, and I've never looked back. And I made that move probably in 2016 or 17. And but the best thing I did was got rid of my Snap-on battery stuff. See, Snap-on, they'll come out with something and then they'll change the battery design to force you to upgrade.
Get the new stuff.
I can't stand that.
Look, when they had the 12-volt stuff back in the day, I thought Snap-on has some pretty good power tools. You know, like when they first the first handheld kind of the 3/8 electric drive, the 12-volt style one.
Yeah.
Dude, mine was built like a tank, it was great.
I still got my green one, so I put it through the ringer.
Yeah.
And I kind of got like a rest in peace sign on it, and I've got it hanging in my garage because it was like the goat to me.
That's how I had the black and red one.
I had the green one.
What happened was the batteries got burnt up. Well, when the batteries, you couldn't get them anymore.
No, they didn't offer it
They
anymore.
Discontinued them, you know, another discontinued issue. And then so I just traded it in for a newer one. And then they had a deal to where they gave me so much money toward that one. And then, I don't know, I thought if I bought that one, you got another one free or a battery free or something. So I bought two half-inch drives. I upgraded it. Dude, it was the worst investment I ever made.
Really?
Yeah, so I had them for 2 weeks. And it wasn't our current Snap-on dealer, but this is the one who I went through. And I said, look, you got to take these back. They're awful. I don't want them anymore. And he was like, I don't care. I'll sell them again for you. And so he
That-
did. And I ended up buying some Ryobi. And I hate to say it, I bought some DeWalt stuff there too.
Well,
but it was all right.
that first generation of Snap-on cordless impact was awful. I mean, it was
so heavy too.
they were heavy, and there was no power, and you had like a lot of charger and battery issues constantly.
Yeah, I have to say that as well. Well, I mean, do we got any other topics we want to talk to Jake about? Or, Jake, do you have anything else that's on your mind or anything you want to touch base on? I'm wanting to look through this topic list that I have here. You said kind of programming, security, serial gateway. We talked about that a little bit. We talked about AFM, DODs. Diagnosing instead of parts replacing. We didn't really dive too much into that. It's I think we touched a little base on that, Brian, in the first episode, but not like a whole lot.
We did, and I feel like where the problem is especially dealerships are guilty of it because they need people obviously, but
Right.
people are so busy, and I don't want to just say dealerships. I think it's everywhere. People are so busy. Everybody's busy with their own job that whenever you in a technician world, you're responsible for you. So, advisors or whoever will bring tickets out to individuals, and then they got to do their own work. Like they get paid, and a lot of times they're just getting paid flat rate, not hourly. So people don't want to take the time away from their self and their money to help out somebody up and coming. So a lot of people just in survival mode. So they're just, they're Googling stuff, and they're just parts replacing. They're just, well, it's this, because nobody's properly trained them, and nobody has showed them proper ways to diagnose a vehicle.
So many good techs get lost that way. They just get burned out on it because they're always trying to claw up a hill that they can't ever get on top of because of that. And I think for someone that is that specializes in what they do, even like you guys, flat rate can really kill a tech quick. I think they should get paid for what they deserve. I mean, because they got to supply their own stuff to do it. But there's different circumstances where it could work. I guess if you're good at something, you know what you're going to get into. But diagnosing things is a big thing. So many people are parts changers. I mean, even homeowners are parts changers. Oh, my buddy said it's this. Well, are you going to throw $300 at it, or are you going to take 30 minutes and think about why it's doing it, how it does it, and maybe look up some diagrams on it, because it'll save you in the long run.
I think some of the issue that we're having is that we are living kind of in this microwave society of this quick fix and give me what I want right now kind of mentality. And I hate to say that. I just think that's just the world that presses in on us, man. It's just it's the media, the society, everybody tells us, hey, that's what kind of world we need to be living in. And so they've trained us to where, hey, well, let's just throw something at it to fix it, versus actually take the time and do it right the first time around. And it'll save you so much more money in the long run, man. Yeah. It really will. Yes, if not, you're just at $300 here, $200 there, $100 there. Well, if you had it diagnosed properly the first time, or knew what you were doing the first time, well, it would have saved you a whole lot of headache and a whole lot of money.
I think the problem with especially flat rate technicians is 9 times out of 10 they're not getting paid for diagnostics. So they'll pull it in real quick. Yep, it's a starter. Yep, O2 sensor, or whatever the scan tool says, because they're not properly getting paid or compensated for what they're doing.
They should get paid for diag time. Did they not get that at dealers?
A lot of times, no.
Really?
A lot of times the advisor won't charge for it.
Wow.
So
I spend so much time in diag time.
Yeah.
Like, not that I do on every one of them, but that's the backbones to your whole job. Is diag. That's how you know where to go. If you don't, it's like you're running blind in the dark.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that me and Brian was talking about, man, whenever it come to we talked about this on the last one, part 1, was properly diagnosing something and then charging for the customer for that diag fee. Man, that's a whole, we're going to get sideways on that topic if we dive too deep into it. But, doctors do it, electricians do it, HVA technicians do it. there's so many people out there, but for some odd reason, people think in the automotive industry you shouldn't do that, or it's free. And we talked about how much the scan tool and software programming and just everything else in general, how much it costs you.
And the know-how as well is one thing,
Yeah, I mean,
aside from the cost.
The years of experience that you dive in, or that you have to gain, or the knowledge that you have to gain, and it's just like, yeah, I know time is money. It really is. At the same time, you shouldn't trade time for money. I think you take a combination of time, ability, and a few other things.
You got to balance it out.
You got to balance it out, and then you have a value. You set your value of what it's worth to whatever that consumer is. Yeah. So, but. I don't know. We're not going to dive too deep into it. We'll probably go ahead and close this thing out. I mean, Jake, do you got any last advice that you want to give anybody, or anything else that you want to say before we let you go? Or
I'm done with my Denali jokes.
Guys,
I appreciate you guys having me.
We appreciate having you on. Guys, go show Jake some love on Facebook, JH Performance. You got Instagram or anything?
Yeah, I got Instagram, Jake_9713, and my Facebook is it's actually facebook.com/JHP Wiring.
Okay.
Yeah, JH Performance was taken, I guess, by
okay.
something not automotive related.
Okay.
So.
And what's the best way? So if you haven't caught the gist yet by now, Jake does. He's the man around the area. I mean, I'll say even within a 50 to 80 mile radius. If you want any kind of in-depth wiring issues, you do standalone wiring harnesses for LSs and things like that too.
Duramaxes, LSs, 4.3s, anything GM related, 8.1s.
Yeah.
Rock bouncers, planes, cars, anything and everything,
Yeah, so that's the thing. I mean, if there's something out there that you guys may see, or just based on the knowledge, or if you all need anything at all, reach out to Jake at JH Performance. He'd love to help you all out. Just understand that, he stays pretty busy. He's a pretty busy guy.
A one-man show.
He's a one-man show. He works a daytime job as well. And at nighttime, man, he lives, eats, and breathes electrical work, and he really wants to take care of you all in a timely fashion. But just understand, he's a one-man show, and he's got a lot going on. And so, but if they want to book an appointment or schedule an appointment with you, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you, Jake? Is it through probably Facebook messaging?
Facebook Messenger is fine with me. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Or if you get my number, you can text me. You're welcome to call me. I'll return your call. It's just hard to always answer the phone because you're always in the dead run. But text, Facebook Messenger. You can even email me. It's jhperformance@hotmail.com. You're welcome to email me. Anything, just reach out. You can find me. Yeah.
Sounds good. And Brian, do you got anything else before we head out, man?
That's it, man. Jake, thanks for being on here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Jake, thank you so much, dude. It was a super, super good pleasure to have you here on the show. And, guys, everybody that's listening in, if you're a business owner, a community leader, nonprofit organization, or anything like that, please be sure to reach out to us at blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. That's blueclock.podtalk@outlook.com. We'd love to have you here on the show. Or if you like what you heard today, reach out and shoot us a comment down in the comment section below. Tell us what you thought. Tell us the topic that you want to hear. If you're just a listening audience and you love every topic that we've talked about, or just even the automotive industry, not even the automotive industry. I mean, maybe we can get some doctors, we can get some business owners on here, we can get some restaurants, maybe some pastors. I mean, throw a few things out there, some buckets heads on too. So y'all come on, enjoy the show. Guys, dive into next season. Season 1, Episode 4 is coming up, and super excited to announce one of mine and Brian's good friends. We're not going to let the cat slip out of the bag yet on that one, but be sure to tune in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are now on YouTube, so go to www.youtube.com/Blueclock Podtalk, or just go to the search engine and type in Blueclock Podtalk. Just do that. Click the subscribe button and the notification bells on our channel, and that way you can get notified. That's right, man. Show them what it's all about, Brian, back here in the back. Brian, you got anything for the audience?
Go check it out.
Oh, get out of here, Brian, with that stuff, man. No, but hey, super glad to have Brian. We're actually going to have him try to be permanent as long as he can here on Blueclock Podtalk as our co-host, and we'll have several other guests. Jake, again, it was a pleasure.
pleasure, brother.